Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 and it's Friday and you made it through this week, and good for you. Good for all of us for that matter, because I'll be honest, it was touch and go in the middle of the week whether we'd make it through or not. But we did. You know, always look on the bright side here. You're probably going to make it through. And now we're launching into a weekend, but we got some business to take care of. So let's get to it at 6:35. Thomas Caravan, Executive Director of the National Law Enforcement Museum. Grand opening now of this brand new law enforcement museum art exhibit that we're going to focus on. And then at 7:35, Bram Weinstein is going to join us, talk about this weekend's Commanders game with Arizona and a renewed excitement over the Burgundy and Gold. 8:05, our buddy Sam Sorbo, Hollywood actress and author of a brand new homeschool book you're going to want to know about. We'll check in at 8:15 with our buddies Vince Colonnese and his producer Corey out there at an early voting site in Arlington. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. I am Larry O'Connor, and look at there. It's Patrice Onwuka, bright and shiny this morning, fresh off your congressional appearance this week.
Yes. Happy Friday, Larry.
I'm always happy that when my friends are called to testify and they're not actually facing some sort of scandal or potential criminal charges, I just want to make sure everyone knows Patrice was on the Hill, but she was testifying as an expert.
Yes, I was.
You were not facing any kind of possible indictment.
No way, Jose. No, I was actually testifying about inflation, how it's impacting families, and frankly, debunking the myths and the flat-out lies that I heard some members putting out there about what's driving inflation, and some of those lies are actually being used in campaign ads right now.
In fact, there's a bit of a fire exchange there. We're gonna play that a little later in the program, so you can hear Patrice. She's all bright and sunny and polite here for the most part on Friday mornings, but don't get on Patrice's bad side. We'll hear Patrice standing up for herself and the truth there on Capitol Hill a little later in the show. Right now, listen, we've been focusing so much on the presidential race, and understandably, it's kind of a big deal. But there's some local races here, of course, the House races in Virginia 7, Virginia 10, Maryland 6, and some of the other ones. Those three, of course, get the most attention because they're open seats. We also have an open Senate race in Maryland, which has a lot of attention paid to it. And we want to focus on that and compare it a little bit between the attention the Hogan-Alsobrooks race in Maryland is getting versus the attention that the Cow-Kane race in Virginia is not getting. The Hogan-Alsobrooks race is something that gets national attention. Everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
And I get it. Listen, Larry Hogan is a two-term governor of Maryland, so he's got high name identification. He goes on cable news all the time, most of the time, to bash Donald Trump. You know, it's funny how he doesn't get as many national television appearances now that he's running in the Senate.
I've noticed that, too.
When he was, just a governor, or when he was no longer holding office and his sole purpose was to go on the air and be a Republican that screams about Donald Trump, man, every show wanted him on the air. Right?
Of course.
Now that he's a Republican running for office and potentially flipping a currently held Democrat seat to Republican, it's like Jake Tapper doesn't want to talk to him anymore. It's like
well, that's not surprising.
Lawrence O'Donnell has no interest in him anymore.
That's not surprising, but listen, Governor Hogan, he has squandered a fantastic opportunity to turn all of that bipartisan support that he had after he left office into a Senate win. It should have been, I think it should have been a slam dunk, especially considering who he's now running against.
I think his strategy was that Republicans will vote for me even if they aren't thrilled about it, because we disagree on a lot of things, and especially Donald Trump. But they'll vote for me. My whole way of winning this race is to get Democrats and independents to vote for me over Angela Alsobrooks. And that's the case he's trying to make. But based on the latest poll out of Maryland, University of Maryland, of likely voters, it's not going well. This poll shows him down by 11 points against Angela Alsobrooks. Angela Alsobrooks has made this entire election for U.S. Senate in Maryland about abortion.
Yes,
She's basically said, you put me in the Senate, and I'm going to codify Roe v. Wade as a federal law. Now, that's not going to happen.
It is
She
not.
doesn't. First of all, the Democrats aren't going to have the majority in the Senate, number one. Number two, even if somehow she gets enough votes to get it over the 50-vote mark, she's not going to get it past a filibuster, and she's not going to get it into the House either. It's just not going to happen.
It's a flat-out lie. And
But
Angela Alsobrooks is the current county executive for Prince George's County, my county. My county is falling apart at the seams in a lot of ways. Recent report about violent crime spiking in several Maryland jurisdictions. Baltimore County, Baltimore City doesn't surprise me. PG County, which is one of the richest counties in the nation, I think it's the top black wealth county in the nation, should not be experiencing the rise in crime that we're seeing. Robberies, larcenies, even violent offenses, physical offenses. That's what's happening. And what is Angela Alsobrooks doing? She's running for Senate.
Yeah.
She's absolutely running for Senate instead of focusing on what our county does. I wish that became the issue that Governor Hogan is hitting her on. Why should we trust the entire state and the United States to you when you can't even handle the county of PG, which was a bright, pristine, pretty good county in most parts, some parts obviously.
Yeah.
But
funny you should say that. What issue has Larry Hogan hit her on? I haven't seen anything.
I haven't.
They sort of spent a little bit of time on this scandal that she's been avoiding her own personal taxes this week. I think they had a 24-hour news cycle on that. But, he should take a page out of the Democrat. Whenever the Democrats want to, undermine the Second Amendment and confiscate weapons and have bans on weapons and all the things that they want to do, they always reply and they say, "Oh, no. I'm not interested in doing that. I just want common sense gun safety measures," right? That's what they always do, which is really just a rebranding of what they actually do.
Yeah.
What Larry Hogan should say about abortion is, first of all, Angela Alsobrooks lying to you. She's not going to be able to have any kind of influence or power at the national level to get a federal law through. They've got the majority in the Senate right now when they're unable to do it with a president who's willing to do it in the White House, number one. Number two, yes, I'm personally against abortion, but look at my record. I have never done anything when I've had any sort of elected office that has anything to do with abortion. This is an issue that will be handled at the state level, and it's not going to go away from Marylanders in any way whatsoever. But if you really want to talk about abortion, Angela Alsobrooks, my question for you is, are there any restrictions that you would ever put on the extinguishing of a human life in the womb? Can we at least say that in the final week of a pregnancy you would oppose abortion? Because you don't seem to oppose abortion at any point in life. I have a common sense approach to this and use I'm a common sense person and I think most people are repulsed by some of the extreme pro-abortion ideas that Angela Alsobrooks and her party holds. Put her on the defensive on this thing.
Thank you. Put her on the defensive on abortion and put her on the defensive on some of the other kitchen table items that people really care about in the state of Maryland. I mean, listen, abortion, it could be a driver for some people, but I have to believe that a lot of Marylanders are thinking about their pockets. They're thinking about the fact that prices remain elevated and that this administration has done nothing. And Angela Alsobrooks has done nothing. In my county, you know what she did? She did make sure that there was an newly imposed ban on plastic bags, and then you have to pay 10 cents or more for a brown paper bag that's going to fall apart on your way to the car if it's raining. That's what you hit Angela Alsobrooks on. Hit her on the fact that she's not experienced. Hit her on the fact that she has done nothing. Nothing. I'm giving them points here. I want to see this.
Taxes in Prince George's County, cost of living in Prince George's County, crime in Prince George's County. Quality of life in Prince George's County. You know what kind of leader she is. You want to live in Prince George's County? All right. So that's the Maryland Senate race, where again, and this still gets, people talk about this on a national basis, and it gets a lot of attention, a lot of focus. And Hogan is down by 11 points in this latest poll.
It's crazy.
In Virginia, we've got a brand new poll out that shows Hung Cow within 6 points of Tim Kaine.
Wow.
And this race is getting hardly any attention at all. We're going to give it some attention coming up in just a moment. First, though, it's 5:15, WMAL traffic and weather.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So I love the way this is written. Washington Post here on this University of Maryland poll. Democrat Alsobrooks pulls ahead in Maryland Senate. Just so you know, it appears from all data that we have available to us, the Republicans are going to win the Senate majority. West Virginia is in the bag right now. That's Manchin's Democrat seat. It flips Republican. The Democrat Senate committee has just pulled all of their money out of the Montana race for John Tester.
Yeah.
Tester's done. He's down by 11, 12 points right now. That's a Democrat seat that'll flip Republican. The Democrats, they said made a big announcement about where they're going to focus their money. They're focusing their money in Florida and Texas. That's Rick Scott and Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
So they think those are their best shots to flip Republican seats. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
So any other seat now, so that's a Republican majority right there with West Virginia and Montana. Add to that some of the other seats that they have a possibility of winning, like Pennsylvania with McCormick versus Bob Casey. Kerry Lake seems to be trailing quite a bit in Arizona, but that's still a possibility. And then that puts Virginia and Maryland in play, too. But either way, the Republican Senate race seems to be baked in the cake right now.
Yes.
Any other seats are just going to be gravy for that Republican majority. So when you look at how this is being reported, she's up by 11 in the University of Maryland poll, but the Washington Post says, but there's tens of millions of dollars yet to be spent and a debate ahead and national attention locked on the race. So it's not enough to put a Hogan upset out of the question. So the Washington Post is still saying, hey, Larry Hogan could still upset Angela Alsobrooks down by 11. And that's true. It could happen. But meanwhile, you look at this University of Mary Washington poll that just came out in Virginia. You've got a very popular sitting Republican governor in Glenn Youngkin, who is campaigning shoulder to shoulder with Hung Cao. You've got, lackluster support for Tim Kaine since he's been there for so long. Yes, he's got a lot of money, but as of now, he's not polling over 50% in Virginia.
Wow.
It's 49 to 43. That's Hung Cao within 6 points of Tim Kaine. And we're already in the middle of early voting. There's a whole lot more game to be played, of course. But that looks very good for Hung Cao, yet you don't hear about it much at all. Now, to be fair, there are conflicting polls, as usual. There's another poll from Emerson that shows Kaine up 10, which, by the way, is still not as big a margin that Alsobrooks has in Maryland. But there's obviously a double standard here with how the Virginia race is being reported based on how the Alsobrooks race is being reported. Hung Cao is running a very solid race right now with a way less money than Hogan has in Maryland.
Well, you know what? I think there's so many implications, which is why there's attention on Maryland versus Virginia. I mean, I think the media does not want to point to a Republican governor in Virginia doing so much to get out early voting, but also to have registered so many voters in Virginia. So the idea that potentially Virginia flipping, I think they want to make sure that continues to be an unlikely idea. In Maryland, you have this unicorn kind of candidate. It's a black woman. She would be the first, I believe, first black female to lead this, to represent the state in the Senate. So I think that's what the idea is. Let's play up the identity politics enough so that it boosts a candidate who is weak at every measure. And make her seem like she is like a Kamala Harris. So if you're voting for Harris, then you've got to vote for Alsobrooks. I think that's why there's so much more attention on that race.
I think the Kamala Harris comparisons are absolutely part of the issue. But, I mean, if it's really just identity politics or diversity or whatever, I hate to point this out to the mainstream media, but Hung Cao is a man of color. And he would be the first man of color voted to the Senate for the Commonwealth of Virginia. He would also be the first Vietnamese American elected to the Senate on the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. That's kind of an amazing story, considering he came here as a refugee, went to the Naval Academy, served over 25 years, retired as a captain, and now continuing his public service as a member of the U.S. Senate. I mean, if you want your race-based storyline, if that's really your intent here, I think it's a compelling argument to make, too. This is politics. Hung Cao is on the wrong side of the political equation.
That's thing.
That's why he's not getting it.
Well, that's exactly the thing. We know this, Larry. I'm a black female conservative.
What?
I
How
know,
the hell
right?
did you get on this show? What? Hey!
I know. So that means that, I might as well, I won't use some of the terms that I've been called to my face, but it goes to show that if you are on the Democratic side, every story that you are fairy tale. Whereas if you're on the Republican side, then your identity politics don't matter. In fact, they weigh against you in the eyes of some. So I'm hopeful that Hung Kao, if economy is a top issue for Virginia voters, there's got to be no reason why they would want to vote for Tim Kaine.
Well, I want to put this out there for the National Republican Senate Committee because they're going to be deciding in these final weeks where they're going to throw money to try to help a candidate. And if they are going to throw money to their buddy Larry Hogan, who they've known and worked with for the last 10 years when he was governor, not that he did a whole lot to advance the national agenda in Maryland. Again, he wasn't a bad governor, but he wasn't the best Republican necessarily, and he's already indicated that he's not necessarily going to toe the Republican Party line when he's in the Senate.
Yes.
But that's fine. You listen, I want Larry Hogan to win. You want to throw money his way so he can win, great. But every penny you give to Maryland for Larry Hogan, you better match for Hung Kao in Virginia.
Good point.
Because he will be a solid Republican vote in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and he has the best opportunity to finally get Tim Kaine out of there. So they should do that right now. And we just want to make sure we're going to be watching that very closely. It is 5:24. So we're seeing amazing scenes out of the Tampa Panhandle side of Florida as Hurricane Helene bears down. I think it's now gotten up to a Category 4 hurricane.
It has.
Is that the last report I saw?
Yes.
The huge tides and waves from the Gulf just washing out roads in Tampa as people have evacuated. And but not everyone's evacuated. If you've seen these images, God, you got to love the Florida spirit, where all the newsmen are down there and they're, standing with their waders and the waves are crashing and they're screaming into the microphone with the wind blistering. And in the background, there's a little swampy motorboat that goes by with a giant Trump flag. And the dude with a mullet and a MAGA hat with a can of beer going by saying, "Peace, dude, we're good. Don't worry about it. We got this."
It's Florida.
It's Florida, man.
Outside of Miami, Florida, I should say.
Yes, exactly. It is amazing, the scenes there. And it's like some may call it a potentially devastating, life-threatening hurricane, but others look at it as another opportunity for a MAGA boat parade.
Well,
so
why not?
Go.
I love there's
Lucille,
a guy.
Let's get the boat out. Let's go.
I mean, it's the spirit of resilience and it's the spirit of independence. It says, not even a storm is going to keep me from supporting my president.
They got their
you gotta
priorities.
love it. As long as he's safe. As long as he's safe.
Well, and meanwhile, in the background, you see the producers try to shoo these guys all out of the shot. Because it's like, hey, we're trying to do a really serious storm coverage here.
You're
messing
absolutely
it up.
terrible. Yeah, no,
Well, listen, if you're feeling a little envy and you wish that your streets were flooded out so you could kayak down them with your Trump flag, good news for you. This Sunday on the Potomac, there will be a MAGA boat parade. That's right. Right here in D.C., where, I don't know, maybe it'll just be on the Virginia side of the Potomac. I'm not sure. But there's going to be a MAGA boat parade, and people are like, how many people are going to show up for that? Well,
it's going to be well attended.
It's going to be very well attended, and we know one person who will be literally leading the entire way, our very own Corey Enganamort. You know him, you love him. Many weekends he hosts the Saturday afternoon show. He's also Vince Coglianese's producer every day.
Yes.
But what people might not know about him, he's a bit of a pirate on the Potomac. Basically, from April through November, every weekend he has a pontoon boat that is full of right-wing media personalities, and he's got giant Trump flags that fly in the back of the boat.
Love it.
And he basically motors. Have you been on the boat yet, Patrice?
I have not.
You may be the only person from the show that has not made it to the boat.
I got to get on the boat. Maybe this Sunday after
Corey's
church.
pirate boat is a pretty amazing scene, and he loads it up, and we drink a lot, we play a lot of great music, and then he'll pull up to either Georgetown or Alexandria or to the marina in D.C.
Oh,
and people hear the music and they're like, "Oh, yay, people are partying," and then they look and they're smiling, and then they see the flag and they're like, "Oh."
And then they call the police.
Then we have some fun with them. It's good stuff. It's 5:30. Oh, by the way, Corey Enganamort will join us at 8:15 today to talk about preview that boat parade coming up later.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. Thanks for tuning in on this Friday edition of O'Connor and Company. 6:35, Thomas Caravan from the National Law Enforcement Museum. 7:35, Bram Weinstein from ESPN 630. Talk about this weekend's Commanders game. 8:05, Sam Sorbo, actress and homeschool advocate. She's got a new book on homeschooling. 8:15, Vince Colonnese will be reporting from a polling place in Arlington there. Early voters in Virginia. Let's go. 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
It's going to be your new theme song now, Patrice Onwuka. You know, I'm a bit of a nerd, so sometimes I'll just have C-SPAN playing in the background, C-SPAN 2. You know, you never know what's going to happen there. There might be newsworthy, oversight committee, and, you know, I'm chilling out, trying to, you know, set my fantasy football lineup earlier in the week, and suddenly I hear this coming from my TV.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to respond to something that you said, Ms. Stansberry, don't take up your qualms with me. Take it up with the Federal Reserve, who put out the information around price gouging, looking at not just at one particular industry, but industries across the board, and found that there was no markup increase, that signals price gouging. So I'm happy to, it's in my submitted testimony, I'm happy to provide you the actual source of that, but you can pursue it for yourself and figure out where we disagree.
Don't take up your qualms with me.
Yes, that was me.
That was you, Patrice, as you were testifying before the House Oversight Committee. This specifically had to do with what they call kitchen table economics, how the Biden-Harris policies continue to hurt consumers. And what happened here? This congresswoman probably tried to say, well, it's price gouging, price gouging is what's responsible. And you said, oh, no, it ain't.
Yes. So Representative Stansberry, Melanie Stansberry out of, I think, Albuquerque, New Mexico, she was sitting in for the ranking member, who, by the way, guess who the ranking member of this subcommittee was? A certain Cori Bush, who lost her chance, pretty much lost her seat. She is out, and from what I understand, has been missing in the halls of Congress.
No, she's
so in
trying
any
to get her
case,
next gig.
Exactly. So Representative Stansberry was the dedicated ranking member, and so she literally just launched into this attack on all of the Republican witnesses, saying that everything that we are saying are lies, untruths, and that she was going to set the record straight, that this is about price gouging. We know it. We know it's the groceries. We know it's the gas, the energy companies. I'm trying my best to channel her voice.
Is that really what the congresswoman sounds like?
Well, you can go back and listen to the hearing if you want. But the thing was, though, that she literally named me and said, Ms. Onwuka, I just need to correct the record. And then she goes after me and then doesn't give me a chance to respond. So I signaled to the chairman, Fallon, great guy out of Texas, and I just kind of put my fingers up that I wanted to respond. And so I did. And listen, you don't have to like what I have to say, but don't take your issue with me. Take it up with the smart people, the economists at the Federal Reserve, who have done the industry-wide analyses to recognize that price gouging is not widespread, and it is not the reason why inflation is high, or why inflation rose, or why prices remain elevated today. I know that the left thinks that price gouging is a great boogeyman. We see Angela Alsobrooks making ads saying, "Oh, I'm going to fight inflation, fight price gouging, which is making your milk more expensive." But those of us who know, we know it's a lie. It's a straw man, and it's just an easy boogeyman. But everything that they're offering is not going to actually deal with the actual issue.
Yeah, well, I know that people need to know, because I think the assumption is that because you are on the radio with us here and you do a lot of television and you're such a good communicator of these ideas, that you're kind of as they say in the business, a comms person, and you are great at communicating these ideas, but you're a policy person. You're a policy wonk. Independent Women's Forum has you or offers you up as as an expert for these hearings, and you do this a lot. You really do.
This is my second time this month testifying. I testified for the Energy Committee on the House side 2 weeks ago, similar topics. And listen, I care about this issue, Larry, because I'm a middle-class gal like you guys, like everyone
And like Kamala
here.
Harris, by the way.
Oh,
she grew up as a middle class.
I didn't fake working at McDonald's. I actually had real summer jobs. I actually did have, student loans. I still do. But I recognize that we don't need to gaslight people. We don't need to lie to them. We don't need big government to solve their problems. I think most people just want to be able to work and take care of their family, to make sure that their paycheck goes far enough to have a little bit of extra in there, a little bit of margin, so that they could take their kids to the movies, that they could afford to play for their kids to play sports. And what are the ways to get there? I don't want to lie to people. And so that's why I actually do the research. I look for the people who are analyzing all of this data, and then I pull things together that make sense, not just sound good.
Could we just get cut 4A here real fast? I just want to. Everyone needs to be left with this. This might be my new ringtone when Patrice calls me.
Ms. Stansberry, don't take up your qualms with me. Take it up with the Federal Reserve. I was being restrained too. Excuse me. I was trying to be restrained and be very polite and very respectful.
When your little boys are trying to, make the case, I made my bed, Mommy. I promise. Don't you take up your qualms with me. Don't get on Patrice's wrong side, I guess is what she's a little bit more than just happy Friday, people.
Yes.
Well done, Patrice. Always proud of you when you represent all of us and represent the truth there up in Congress.
Thank you.
It's 5:43. Well, we told you yesterday that there had been an indictment of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. The indictment had been sealed. There were some rumors about what may have been involved in this, obviously leaked to the media from the Justice Department. Why are there always leaks to the media from the Justice Department?
Makes you wonder.
We didn't have the details, though. The details did come out later yesterday, and we can sort of break it down for you here. It appears that Eric Adams, according to the Justice Department and this investigation, accepted free travel on Turkish Airlines, illegal contributions to his campaign, perks from a number of people connected to the Turkish government. This is a conspiracy to receive illegal foreign campaign contributions, wire fraud, bribery, 57-page indictment. This includes hotel rooms and airfare worth $100,000 and free travel. Illegal contributions to the 2021 mayoral campaign.
Yeah.
It was a multi-year scheme to buy favor with a single New York City politician on the rise, according to Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Now, these are the allegations. He will have his day in court, but, there are calls on him to resign now.
Yeah.
There's rumors that Andrew Cuomo is now interested in running for governor of New York.
Man.
Maybe Anthony Weiner will be able to come out of his exile and run for the office. He almost won if it weren't for those darn teenage girls that kept forcing him to send lewd pictures too.
That's not going to fly anymore.
Here's the larger story here, I think, because almost everybody I know, and mostly from the conservative side of the political equation, when they heard this story, they didn't immediately think, oh, well, what did Eric Adams do? And understand, Eric Adams is a Democrat.
Yes.
Eric Adams is a liberal Democrat, and he is, for all intents and purposes, the political opposition to my preferred candidates and my preferred political principles, right? So you would think in this highly partisan environment that we live in right now that the second a Democrat is indicted for corruption, like, for instance, Senator Bob Menendez,
yes.
right, who was also, it's like immediately you're going to think, oh, well, the guy's corrupt. What did he do? Of course he's corrupt. Not only did the FBI and the DOJ investigate him and bring charges against him, but he's inherently my political opponent, so I'm going to, likely believe these charges against him, right? That's just the way partisan politics works sometimes, right? But almost every single person I know who saw this story said, oh, wow, so he got on the wrong side of the DOJ. He got on the wrong side of the FBI. He got on the wrong side of the Biden administration.
That's true.
That's why they're doing this. And whether that is true or not, whether these are legitimate charges or not, I cannot overstate the damage that partisans at the FBI and the Justice Department have wrought upon our federal justice system. Because at this point, whenever the DOJ announces any sort of criminal charges against a political figure, my initial instinct now is to assume that this is a political hit, that they are using the law to harm somebody politically,
yes,
rather than it actually be a legitimate crime. And then, fair or not, they have done this to Donald Trump and Republicans so consistently and in such a damaging way now that that's going to be our instinct from this point forward. And it is, I don't know how they fix this other than
well,
cleaning house.
It's going to take, frankly, years of actually, of course, correction to fix it. I mean, listen, if based on, and it's interesting, the Wall Street Journal has a really in-depth analysis of the different allegations. It seemed like the Turkish government was literally grooming an up-and-coming politician in Eric Adams. And this is going back to 2014, I believe 2015, 2016, to the point where he was able to kind of bully the fire department into allowing them to create a second Turkish consulate against the wills of the local officials. So, I mean, whether or not these charges come out to be true, it seemed like everyone said about him when he was running for mayor, oh, he's going to be indicted any day now. So this was a long-standing something that was hanging over his head for quite some time. What seems curious now, though, is the timing. And I think that's what people look at, and they say, well, you know what? He has been a vocal opponent to the Biden-Harris immigration situation, because New York City has felt the direct impacts of having so many illegal immigrants resettled in the city with no plan and no resources behind it.
Yeah, and what you said about what the Wall Street Journal said about these, that may very well be true. But you know what? They said that about Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia as well. And his charges got thrown out at the Supreme Court. Where does he go to get his reputation back? Where does he go to get his political career back, as he was seen as an up-and-coming, rising Republican who could run for national office someday? Everything that you just said about, the Turkish government was grooming Eric Adams. Well, I was told that the Russian government was grooming Donald Trump for years to go into play. And the Steele dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton, became the number one piece of evidence to create an investigation into Donald Trump. And there have never been any charges against him because it was all bogus. Yesterday, Donald Trump at a press conference in New York addressed this issue.
I watched about a year ago when he talked about how the illegal migrants are hurting our city and the federal government should pay us and we shouldn't have to take them. And I said, you know what? He'll be indicted within a year. And I was exactly right, because that's what we have. We have people that use the Justice Department and the FBI at levels that have never been seen before. So I wish him luck. I don't know anything about what he did, but I told a lot of people right over there, that group was saying, sir, you were right about that. When they mentioned that, I said, they came in and he was pretty strong about it. He said, this is really unfair to make us carry this burden. We shouldn't be doing this. This is New York City. I mean, your parks are loaded up. I just passed recently Madison.
He went on to talk about how bad things are, but the point is, he immediately said, he'll be indicted in a year. The fact that so many people see a story like this and say, I wonder what the real story is, tells you that something is severely broken at the Justice Department that seriously needs to be fixed.
And good luck waiting for it to happen. I mean, this is the Biden administration, and it's laughable when you hear people talk about, President Trump is going to be vindictive in office. He wasn't vindictive the first time, and he had every right to be, especially on his towards the latter days of his first administration. But what we have seen is not vindication, but the Justice Department going after these people, opponents to the Biden administration.
When Democrats say that Donald Trump will use the Justice Department to inflict pain on his political enemies, they are saying that because they know it can be done, and because they've seen it done, because they've done it. I wonder what Chuck Schumer says about this.
He's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Yeah, well said. 5:54.